going on, guys? Double Axe's podcast number 11. This is our second take on it. We had a little malfunction last time, so we're primed and ready for the topics this week. Before we dive into anything, one of our most loyal listeners, my wife's cousin Andy, has cancer and had surgery this last week, and he's recovering from that. Just wanted to say, hey Andy, and I hope you're feeling better, and we're praying for you to get better soon. So how's the week so far there, Dave?
It's been great. I had today off. Just sat around, did nothing. Not many days like that, so it was great.
Hopefully you prepared for the podcast, right?
Yeah, of course.
And not binged on Netflix.
I I don't know what I did today. It's kind of weird. Just looked up and it's 5 o'clock. So
yeah, I remember being like a little kid on summer break or whatever, and like thinking the days went forever and ever, and now like you're off a day and you like wake up and it's like, well, time to go back to work. My little girl was talking about that. She's like, these days are so long. I'm like, I grabbed her face. I'm like, don't ever say it like Billy Madison. Don't ever say that. All right, well, I'm glad you had the day off. You got to work all weekend again?
I got to work. This is my last week working Saturday, so it's, yeah.
I thought that was last Saturday.
No, this is it. This is it. So this is my last Saturday working, so tomorrow we're off, so hopefully I get some fishing in unless my boss calls me.
It's just in time for gun season.
Yeah.
Because gun season the next weekend after that.
Yeah. It's a good time to be off on Saturdays.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, my guest today is my good friend Jeremy Gross. I was, as we kind of talked about last time, trying to figure out exactly when our friendship kindled, and it seemed like everything came back to sports. We played against each other in baseball for a long time, and then eventually I transferred over to Conkrite and we played basketball together. But our friendship just seemed to get stronger and stuff throughout the years. But it all came back to the sports, and told the story that I felt like when we got the closest is we had a camp out and experimented. Well, that's a good word for it. Experimented with some Axe body spray and fire, which
throw caution to the wind.
Yeah, didn't care. We were young and didn't have anything to live for, so might as well go wild. Yeah, ended up throwing a can of Axe and the fire, and had a little explosion and caused a little bit of hubbub. But that was the moment that we really started hanging out, watching. I guess back in the day, before we even watched UFC pay-per-views together, we actually watched boxing pay-per-views together. Yeah. So all the old Roy Jones fights, taking Marty's money on those bets, and then that kind of led us into watching UFC together on pay-per-view, which we didn't get a whole lot back in high school. We talked about the was it Sylvia and Orlovsky?
Yeah, I think we watched all of them. It seemed like
all of them. I just remember
at some point, maybe not.
I remember the third one. What was the third one? How did that end?
It was the worst one.
That was definitely
the
worst one.
That's when you actually set up everything outside where it was open. I'm correct. In the
outside,
basement.
Yeah, in the big open room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one I remember the most, and I remember getting the Tyson pay-per-view, and God knows how many hours we had to work to save up that money to put it on there. I only watched him put it on the stool.
Yeah.
So, and that one was upstairs because I remember it being like 105 degrees in that little tiny room. So
those are my best memories. They're like 15 people seem like cramming in your little room to watch this little TV. TVs weren't high tech like they are now back then.
It was probably a 20-inch TV.
No, probably.
Yeah,
like
I guess
piss hands out there punching each other.
We felt like we were living like kings whenever we moved to Richmond and had the big screen TV. So.
Oh yeah.
But I don't really even remember watching too many pay-per-views back then. I guess we were too poor because we were in college. But
UFC had a lot of pride back then too. It seemed like we probably got more.
We did watch a lot of
than
pride.
anything.
Yeah, I don't remember. I guess those are all pay-per-views because I don't think they had any events that were not pay-per-view. I remember having to stay up super late to watch them though, because of the time difference and everything like that.
Some New Year's cards are like
4 or 5 hours.
We were up in the mornings. It was crazy.
Yeah, but we always played sports together, and that led us to a pretty strong friendship. And then seemed like we started spending a lot of the summers together to where I was at your house or you were at my house, and then just spending as much time as we possibly could getting into shenanigans. That's not probably the best way to put it. And then
the safest way to put it.
and then we started working together at Popeyes, and we spent a lot of time there with more shenanigans, making up crazy games and eating God knows how much money worth of chicken.
We were working hard.
Yes, working hard. I mean,
we were not the reason they closed down.
And I remember before I even worked there, sneaking up to the back door and be like, "Gross, you make me a chicken sandwich." I love those chicken sandwiches there for a long time. We worked at Popeyes together, and then that ultimately led us to probably what was both of our downfall in life, living together in college. And I mean, I don't even know if you really can call it college, because we really didn't do much.
We weren't there very long.
We really didn't do much in the way of studying.
No, when I was there, I wasn't really there. So.
Yeah, I wasn't either. College wasn't for me, but we had a lot of fun over there, and it's an entire college town. We lived on a college street, and we had David and all my brother's friends over, and random people seemed like walked in through our door, and literally.
It was like a TV sitcom.
What was that guy's name?
I don't know. I just remember.
Shout out to that guy if he's watching this.
He loved Chuck Liddell.
He loved Chuck Liddell.
What were you saying, David? It was like a sitcom?
So it was like a sitcom sometimes over there,
It should have been.
There's some good stories, like you said, you want to save for a later podcast.
It was some good stories, but how many good stories have we forgotten?
I'd say most of them, yeah.
That's the scary part. If we
a lot of brain cells lost.
Whoa, man. My mother could be watching.
On my side. I don't know
Spoiler alert.
I was still developing my,
yeah,
upper lobe areas.
Still
I don't know.
developing
I don't know.
That's not coming back.
But we really should have wrote all those stories down, because we probably could have published them into a book, and but then again, probably every college kid had those types of
everybody in Richmond probably has those stories.
Yeah, probably. So,
but theirs probably ended like a lot worse. That's what's good about these stories. They have good endings. They don't have for the most part.
For the most part, they do.
Yeah.
We're still missing a couple people that went vanishing and whatever. But we've maintained a good friendship beyond college life, living together and everything like that, and we still. It seems like we don't watch all the pay-per-views like we used to. I remember a time where it seemed like we didn't ever miss one.
Apparently, nobody else does either. 100,000 miles. I mean.
It's a very solid point, but even back in the day, like I remember, it was in the 50s. It was Orlowski versus Paul Bonatello, and I remember that you all were getting it, and I had something to do, and it was like the first one that we had missed since like UFC 45 or something, 46, something crazy like that. We had seen all of them to that point, and then I remember having to miss it and being like thoroughly upset about that. But when you get older and you start getting those $150, $200 cable bills because you're ordering every single one of the pay-per-views, it kind of adds up pretty quick. So it's a little harder to go ahead and hit the buy button on something that's only got maybe 1-2 fights that you actually care about. So a little bit different times these days.
We done that not too long ago, and good night.
Yeah, but they're few and far between these days. There's still certain guys that I don't want to miss, even if the undercard sucks. I mean, I still want to.
There's not even many of those guys left.
Yeah, not very many. And if they brought TRT back, there would be. I mean, those were the days, huh?
Please.
So,
how do we get that rolling? Could be some way we can do this.
I really think that the more that they do with CTE, me and David have talked about it before, I think the more that they do with brain studies and stuff like that, and they figure out that these guys' pituitary glands are relatively shutting down after a certain point of taking head trauma. I mean, I feel like TRT has to come back in the conversation just for recovery purposes alone and not so much performance enhancing. So, I mean, I really feel like it could prolong careers to prevent injuries, and also, once again, a lot of these guys' pituitaries have just shut off. I mean, Bigfoot Silva has gigantism, and, he genuinely needs it. And there's cases like that of people that genuinely need it. And instead of, he chose the life of fighting, so he doesn't have anything to do. So he's lost like 7 out of his last 8 fights by knockout. and they won't give him a TRT exemption just to be able to function and fight on. It's just crazy. So they should have never started it if this is how it's going to turn out, because once those guys start taking it, your body doesn't produce testosterone like it used to. So now there's all these guys running around without, any testosterone, pretty much in their system. Straight dad bods. So, but, I feel like it's something that they can address in the future. And, to talk a little bit more about MMA, we mentioned the Bellator 185, Mousasi versus Shlemenko. And I know that you said you hadn't really watched much of it other than just seeing his eye, right? You didn't actually ever watch it.
No, I didn't see the fight.
Yeah, it was very weird because in the beginning of the fight he caught a left hook that basically closed his eyes, kind of like Rocky, essentially, and it changed his game plan. It changed the way he was fighting. Didn't look like Mousasi at all. More of a defensive fight and using a whole lot of wrestling to try to basically steal around. So it was a very weird fight, and I feel like it took a lot of his momentum out of his debut because he was so hyped up, kind of coming in there. It was like 3 or 4 on the UFC top 10, I believe, when he went over. Just came off the victory against Weidman. I believe that was his last fight. So it rolled into Bellator, and the steam was kind of taken, out of his debut. It was a tough matchup. You talk about throwing a guy to the wolves, giving him former champion right off the bat. It seemed like all the other guys got a little bit of a layup fight, but Shlemenko was no joke, and it was a tough fight from Mousasi. And I actually just saw today, I don't even remember seeing it announced, but the champion Carvalho is fighting Alessio Sakara in London, or in Italy, for the title. And so, that's kind of I was pretty surprised about that. Sakara didn't have the best exit out of the UFC, and he went back. I think he dropped down to 70 at one point, and he went back up to 85, and he's won a couple of kind of gimme fights that they're basically like, hey, we got a card in Italy, let's put Alessio Sakara on there versus some guy that we've never heard of, and he's got a couple easy wins, and now they're kind of doing the same thing except at the championship fight. So they're using the Sakara name for the championship fight. And I think it's probably going to be a pretty easy fight for Carvalho.
You think that's probably in their contract, how they're getting these guys from the UFC? Like, do this, this, and this, and we'll guarantee you a title fight?
I really don't know. I feel like for the guys, it would probably be smart to do that. But, Sakara has been out of the UFC for a really long time. And I don't think that he really had the bargaining chips to be able to request a title shot right off the bat, or even after a couple fights. Now with Mousasi, I would say that there's probably definitely stipulations that allowed him to get a title shot because he was such a big name and such a coveted free agent. But with Sakara, I'm really puzzled by it. I think that they know what they have in Mousasi, and they're trying to set up that middleweight title. And I think that with it being in Italy, they kind of needed some headliner, and so they're like, oh, let's put Alessio Sakara up there, kind of like they do every time they go to Australia and they put Mark Hunt up there. So
I think this Reebok deal has got to be hurting them too. I mean, you can go to Bellator
sure.
and get your own sponsor.
For sure. A lot of the guys made more money out of the ring than they do in the ring. You look at GSP, and he's making like $11 million a year from Under Armour, and there's no Reebok deal that I can see that would allow him to bring in that type of income. So I think that the Reebok hurts them tremendously because you're not only talking about a clothing line or a footwear line or whatever you want to say with Reebok or Under Armour, but you're also talking about all the supplements and everything else that they can bring in. So I think that like Monster Energy wasn't allowed in the UFC, but outside of that, I'm not too sure how many supplement brands or energy drink brands or whatever it may be were allowed. So I mean, it for sure hurts them. Speaking, kind of segueing a little bit, I mentioned Mark Hunt, and it seemed to be like he was the headliner in all of the Australia fights. Did you see the news about him being pulled off the card? I'm sure you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, he had said that he had no warning. He was just pulled off the fight after he made his comments, and we touched on it before with him saying that he was having stuttering issues and short-term memory issues. But I actually saw today that Dana White came out and made a statement saying that as soon as he was made aware of these comments that he made, Dana White offered to fly him to Vegas to go to one of the best brain doctors in the United States in Vegas to have him, assessed to determine if he actually could fight. And upon refusing that and saying that he would go see the doctors in Australia, which he said that he did and was cleared, Dana White said, no, you're off the card. Which, to me that makes sense kind of both ways, because I understand why Mark Hunt wouldn't fly all the way from Australia to Las Vegas, but I also understand Dana White's protecting not only the fighters but his product too. And
yeah, there's a lot of liability there. You want your doctor to check it out because his doctor's he's getting paid by him,
Yeah. It's kind of like the NFL.
Yeah.
A lot of those injuries, I'm always like, did these guys get a second opinion because you're kind of protecting your product one way or the other? But
I think in that point though, it's kind of got to go through the UFC's doctors, because they're the ones saying he is fit to fight. If they get in there and he gets hit in the head and dies, it's going to come back on them.
And the people in Australia, I'm sure Australia has wonderful health care, but they may not have the technology that Las Vegas does, since Las Vegas is kind of the fight capital of the United States.
They probably have people that specialize in it, which you're...
Yeah, exactly. And so, you got the fight capital, not only of the United States, of the world in Vegas, and you got all these doctors there, and the UFC Institute and everything that's around. I'm sure that it would be much more beneficial for him to come there and be thoroughly...
But I guess everybody fights each other all the time in Australia is what I imagine it. Like Crocodile Dundee and Russell Crowe just swinging at each other. So, they probably have a lot of... they probably have a lot of specialty in that there, too, I'd say.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much that would... to kind of be able to look into the brain, and it all comes back to CTE and all these brain discoveries that we're having, and I feel like it was really vital for them to check up on that, and it could have done a lot to progress the science of MMA as well, because Mark Hunt's been through wars, not only in kickboxing but also in MMA, and so I feel like it was probably just a situation that was mismanaged. It seemed like a lot of those situations with Mark Hunt and Dana White, there's just not a lot of communication. He's trying to act like...
You got two stubborn people.
Yeah, he's trying to act like it's a lawsuit, but Dana White said that he had made $1.6 million since the lawsuit in bonuses and salary and everything. So, just very unfortunate, and...
he's another guy, man. He drives me nuts. He wants to complain about all these steroid uses and all this stuff going. Just fly to Vegas. Do what the boss says. Get it taken care of if you want to fight.
Yeah, and if he was seriously as concerned about it as what he was saying in this article, you would think he would be willing to go and get it checked out.
Make sure there ain't nothing wrong with him.
But then again, maybe he's afraid to know what it actually says too, and he may understand that spells the end of his career. But if he's being dishonest about all this, the way all this went down, then I would say that he's probably being dishonest about his doctors actually checking up on him as well. Seems like he's just kind of saying whatever benefits him at the moment.
He's always been the one guy with like an iron chin.
Oh,
you always got to wonder all that beating he's taking in his head.
Yeah. And not only that, but the older he gets, the more susceptible to knockouts he is. Melvin Manhoff kind of flatlined him, and he kind of seemed to have a resurgence in his career after that. But as time goes on, he's taking more hits and being able to be knocked out a little bit easier. So. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting to throw in there. I guess I would be. I have to mention Donald Cerrone versus Darren Till. Did you get to actually watch that fight?
No.
It was on Fight Pass, so you saw the highlights. Yeah. It was pretty unfortunate. We've talked about Cerrone a lot. It seems like, I guess it's because he's so active. But, I've been saying for a long time I thought he belonged at 55. Do you think that after losing to Till, do you think that he'll go back down to 55, or do you think that he's actually towards the end of his career?
I don't know. I kind of thought he'd already be back at 55, like you said.
Yeah.
And Till comes out and says he could fight at like 205. He was just a big dude.
Yeah, he looked big. But then again, Cerrone looked pretty big too.
I think he enjoys not doing the weight cut, because I've read that he can go eat chips and salsa the Monday before a fight,
and I'm sure drink beer.
And I'm sure
that's pretty important to him.
Especially that sponsorship.
Yeah, with that Budweiser money coming in. I've kind of heard that he spends money hand over fist, and basically it's essential for him to be this active and fight this much, and that's kind of scary with the way that things have kind of went from him off and on. I had said that it seemed to me like, and we've talked about this before, but usually he shines in these moments as opposed to when he gets a title fight, he seems to like crumble a little bit or on the cusp of a title fight, whatever it may be. So, I really don't know what's next for him. A lot of people I saw and heard and read that they're kind of saying that they thought it was the end of his career, but to me, 55 is still relatively open for him, and there's probably more and better matchups down there than there is at 70. 70 is really murder's row. It's probably the best division from top to bottom in the UFC, in my opinion. So I think he really should drop down to 55. I think he needs to take a little bit of time off if his wallet allows him to, I guess. I think he needs to take some time off and maybe see a dietitian or something like that, and think about trying 55 again. I just don't see it at 70. They're just too big, too strong, too athletic, hit too hard. I mean, it's just not working out for him.
Yeah, I mean, anything else, he's got several years. If nothing else, he's a gatekeeper. I mean, he's always going to be an exciting fight. People are going to show up to watch him.
He kind of came out like a bat out of hell at 70, but they were giving him kind of some layup matchups, and then when he fought
the top 10.
Yeah. Even Robbie Lawler, he didn't look great in my opinion. I thought that a lot of people were saying that they thought he won the fight, but I thought Robbie Lawler definitely won the second and third rounds. And I mean, if it went 5, who knows? But
think about that though. Like Robbie hit him a few good times, and he stood in there, which surprised me.
Yeah.
And Teal comes in there and just pops him, and
I mean, that's just the way it goes, though. I mean, it's always one that you don't see or you don't expect or comes from a weird angle to get you, and who knows how hard he went training and stuff like that. Which I've actually heard that he doesn't spar anymore in camp. He actually just hits pads and stuff, and they do a little bit of touch sparring, but he doesn't actually spar anymore because they used to go so hard and have so many wars.
Robbie went a long time without sparring. It kind of brought his career back. He said.
Yeah. I think it works for some guys and then other guys it doesn't. So,
Bisping, when he said, like, if you're going to be good at golf, you got to play golf.
Right.
So he agreed, like, you got to get in there and spar if you're going to fight.
Yeah,
That's the way he feels.
I think it just works differently from everybody. I mean, everybody wants to write, I guess, a handbook on how to do things, and they're like, oh, you have to do A through Z or whatever, but A through Z for you and me is different,
Mm-hmm.
It's just like for sports, we don't play basketball the same, we don't play baseball the same. I'm sure if we fought, we wouldn't fight the same. So, I mean, there's just so many different aspects and ways to do things that, it just, nobody can do it the same. And I don't know if sparring has hurt him. He has his own ranch and his own training center now, and I think he focuses a lot there instead of actually going to Jackson. I'm not sure if that hurts him or not, but ultimately, I feel like his best chance of doing anything in the future is at 55. So,
I mean, he's been in the same camp his whole career. Maybe he needs to go somewhere else, try something.
Well, the good thing about being in that camp though is that like it's forever changing. Like Johnny Hendricks is going there now. So I mean, it seems like
right there's why you should leave. That's where he's down for it.
Yeah, but I heard Brendan Schaub say that Jackson's MMA was like the Florida for old people. Just every time somebody gets older in MMA, they end up going to Jackson's.
They've had so much success. I mean,
yeah, it's hard to argue with, but at the same time, their success has kind of been fleeting over the last couple of years. They're not having as much anymore, and you do have to, freshen things up. I feel like Cowboy at this stage in his career, he's probably not going to change. He's probably not going to do anything different. I'm not sure that's a bad thing. But I feel like that it's a necessity that he drop that weight and go back down and try to reestablish himself at 55 if he wants to do anything, kind of moving forward. So
I agree.
So, obviously that fight has propelled Darren Till into the top 10, and I haven't really got to see him fight much. We were talking, breaking down that, and the last couple fights he hadn't even won by knockout or anything. It had all been decisions lately, so I was pretty shocked that he was actually able to finish Cerrone.
I think he even had a draw in there. I don't know if that was in the UFC or before he came. But
yeah, I believe you're right. And so, that's kind of, maybe he needed that top level competition to kind of propel him and motivate him.
Yeah, I read a good article somebody wrote about, MMA needs people like Cerrone who basically gave him a shot at a big name. Like,
yeah, he didn't have to do that at all.
Because even Cowboy beat him. You're like, well, you beat nobody, and he wasn't a big name.
We talked about that, kind of in breaking down the Cerrone fight too. Me and you just over text. What did it benefit Cerrone?
Yeah,
we
that's
couldn't
in the
figure it
game.
out. So other than just staying active and making his money, like we were saying, but that kind of propelled Darren Till into the top 10. And now, after the last weekend's Ultimate Fight Night, you've got another name at 170 in Covington after he, beat Damian Maia, and then, of course, had this controversial comments after the fact. And he's another guy that I haven't really seen. The downfall of Fight Night is that you don't get to see these guys anymore because most of them are on Fight Pass now. And
I fell asleep the fight before though. Woke up the next morning excited to watch it. Yeah, apparently I didn't DVR it either, so I totally failed that night.
What a bummer. But I didn't get to see the fight. I really wasn't that interested in the card anyway. It's probably something I'll go back and watch highlights of because I feel like Darren Till and Covington are obviously coming up in the ranks of 170, and that's probably my favorite division.
They said Covington like the first 2.5 minutes of the first round, like Damian Maia was lighting him up on the feet.
Yeah,
and I guess something's kind of kicked in and changed the fight.
I heard that as well, and I heard he's a really good grappler, but they said it's kind of something to worry about him in the future getting up to those top strikers that are at the top of the division. Like, how is he going to cope with that if he was kind of having trouble with Damian Maia on the feet, which Damian Maia's striking's evolved over the years, so I feel like he's, Maia after getting that title shot, now this dropping another loss, he's probably towards the
You gotta think
back end of
stop the takedown first. So some of the punches, he probably
maybe, but Covington's kind of a heralded grappler, so you would think that he would probably relish the grappling over the striking, but it is MMA, you have to be evolved, and
a lot of people think that about Maia.
Yeah, I guess. But do you think that Maia's kind of done at this point, or do you think?
I would think so. I mean, I don't know.
I would be really interested to see, and I think that in hearing Eddie Bravo talk that there are negotiations with Fight Pass on, I guess, future tournaments and stuff like that. I would be really interested to see a guy like Damian Maia transition to submission only tournaments, or there's a lot of talk about combat grappling now. It's kind of like where they're able to strike with open palms, kind of like Pancrase. So I would be really interested to see him go to that and compete with those high-level jiu-jitsu guys, because I don't see him making a run for the title at any weight anymore. He's older and slower, and
nobody wants to watch him really.
He's kind of one-dimensional. Basically, if he doesn't get your back and choke you to death, then you're able to. He's tough. Not a lot of finishes against guys. Since Nate Marquardt flatlined him, but
I'd love to see him and Matt Hughes fight.
That'd be cool, but gosh, Matt Hughes has got such a big road to climb back. But that could be a possible grappling match.
Yeah, they were on the verge of, I think, him possibly coming back. They kept talking.
Yeah, right before his accident for sure. And I think there was even kind of murmurs about Bellator, which
grappling. If no striking or hitting, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that a lot of guys should transition to that. And I feel like that Eddie Bravo's got a lot of good things cooking with the grappling scene. And it might be something to prolong guys' careers because, obviously these guys are elite athletes, and in their 40s and 50s, I would say that they could probably still maintain good enough shape to be able to grapple for sure. So, and then, of course, the main event with Brunson finishing off Machida. Didn't really know what to expect with Machida with having such a long layoff and, having a losing skid before that. And I sent you the stat, and I believe he was 7-8 since winning the title or something crazy like that.
Something bad.
So it's kind of hard to believe because Lyoto Machida was so heralded coming to the UFC, and then he wins the title pretty much relatively soon coming in there, and just had a lot of just losses since then, kind of up and down with moving different weight classes. He had a little bit of resurgence when he moved down to 85. But I would say that it's almost certainly the end for him. Those are 3 pretty brutal losses in a row, and to a guy that, he's definitely probably top 5 middleweight at this point, but I'm not sure that when you're known for being a striker and you get finished by a guy so badly that it's not time to hang it up. So
that's about it went as we expected.
What we said. To be honest with you, I expected Machida to use more head movement and to be able to compete on the feet. I didn't expect it to end that way. I expected if he was able to finish Machida, it would probably be getting him down in some type of ground and pound, which has seemed to be his downfall with a lot of guys. They're able to get him down and then just finish them from there. but I didn't really expect it going like that. And you had texted me that him and Colby Covington had got into it as Covington was coming off, and I guess Machida was coming on.
Yeah, you brought up a good point to that. I never thought about that. I mean, he could have had to throw his game off if he was that mad.
Yeah, I think it took him out of his game. It looked like he was, in the highlight that I saw, it looked like his hands were at his waist and he was swinging pretty wild. And I think he was probably pretty fired up, and it's not exactly characteristic for a guy that's been around as long as he has to almost get involved in an altercation for that. But Brazilians are prideful people, and I definitely understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, he has to understand that Covington's just trying to sell his brand. I don't think he, maybe he does, maybe he genuinely means all this stuff, but I think Covington's just trying to sell his brand and get up there to some of the bigger name fights.
That's the only thing it seems like it works anymore.
For sure.
You see these quiet guys on these long winning streaks.
Yeah.
They just get overlapped by these guys that can talk.
Conor McGregor taking the world by storm, and I think a lot of people are trying to kind of feel into that. Chael Sonnen's still talking himself into ass beatings, all these years down the road. So
I think with Conor though, he's been backing it up so far.
Yeah, well, for the most part, for sure. And that's the reason he's a different guy. But people see the way he does it and see the success that he has, and they don't understand that they're different, and they can't just fall right into the same.
Because with Conor, you love him or you hate him. But either way, you're going to watch him.
Yeah.
You want to see him win or you want to see him lose.
It's polarizing. You're going to pay that money to see him get knocked out or see him knock somebody out. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, I think it's once again, the welterweight division's super interesting. I'm not really sure. It seems like the 85 division's just a stalemate, so I'm not really sure what they do with Brunson from here.
He's calling out Luke Rockhold.
I heard that almost certainly now with UFC going to Perth, Australia, I believe it is, early next year, that's probably going to be Whitaker's comeback, and he's probably going to fight Rockhold. That's what I heard. So
I was hearing Dana said that was going to be the unify the title. This is the first thing I
think that would be a pretty short turnaround, though.
See, I thought that too. Then right in Whitaker's backyard, man, they're not giving GSP or Bisping a chance.
I think that I think there's a lot of games being played right now. I think the pay-per-view numbers are pretty far down, and they're aware of it.
There's the whole Woodley thing. He said he's fighting the winner. I mean, everybody's trying to get that payday.
Yeah, for sure. But as far as Brunson, the Rockhold fight probably would make a lot of sense for him. I'm not sure if it'll actually come to pass. But I feel like it would make a lot of sense for him to get that upper tier guy and to really test himself.
Who else is out there?
Weidman's been talking about going 205, which I think is a stupid mistake.
He'll be too small there.
But Brunson versus Weidman's a pretty good matchup.
There's not that many other people off the top of my head that.
No. Nope. So you're kind of
pretty slim.
Jacare. I'm not sure when Jacare's coming back, and you got Romero out there.
He go fight Romero, I guess. But
who knows? Who knows what's next?
That's your three big fights.
And Brunson got embarrassed against Whitaker before, so you got a lot of. It just seems like it's a stalemate. There's no real good answers for 85 until this title fight happens this weekend, and kind of gives us a little bit of clarity. Before we jump into that, though, before the night before, you actually have Bellator 186. You got Phil Davis versus a dude named Lighty. Never heard of him before. He's apparently a good grappler. I think he's only like 3-0. And then you got Ryan Baker versus Lynn Vassell, who's also a grappler. There seems to be a little bit of heat between Baker and Vassell, but it's not getting any publicity, especially with GSP versus Bisping this weekend, and all the good fights on there. So I'm pretty sure that the only thing Bellator has in mind is kind of give Phil Davis somebody that they think he can beat, and Vassell kind of deserves a title shot, but I honestly think that they think that Baker's going to be able to walk away with it, which he probably will at this point, and then you're setting up possible rematch. But then again, Vassell could kind of throw a curveball to all of them, beat Bader, or the other way around, Lighty can beat Phil Davis, which I think the Vassell scenario is probably more likely than the prior. But you got some interesting matchups there at 205, but that division seems to be pretty light. You got Mo Wall kind of out there somewhere. You got Quentin Jackson doing God knows what, but it's kind of an older division. Chael Sonnen, Vanderlei Silva. It's an older division with not a lot going on and not a lot of intriguing matchups. So feel like Bellator needs to do something to kind of generate a little bit of excitement behind that 205-pound division because, you know, like you pointed out before, do we really want to see Phil Davis and Ryan Bader again? Is it just going to be like a potential trilogy fight between Thompson and Woodley?
It's starting to be like them, Sylvia and Arlovsky.
Yeah,
But
at least there was finishes in Morguson and Sylvia. And there's no finishes in these fights, and they're all razor close decisions. Nobody has any idea who wins. I mean, I didn't have any idea. Who cares? Just pick a name out of a hat and call him the winner.
Bader won. I thought it was pretty clear.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it. You know, I don't think I was paying that close attention to it. You know, I had my mind on other things that night, and I haven't rewatched it. But do you think that Bader clearly won the first fight as well?
I don't remember the first fight, to be honest with you. It just seems that's a bad matchup for Phil because Bader's got the wrestling background to kind of neutralize it, and I think he clearly has the better chance.
They really need somebody to generate some type of excitement behind that division. You really need like somebody, well, yeah, polarizing though, to come in and to bring some excitement in and change some stuff up with that. I mean, because I don't know what they do with that division really, so. Be interesting to see how it all works out, but like you said, it's a bad weekend because it is UFC 217 weekend, and you know, we'll dive into that now. We both decided to kind of write the Hendricks fight off. I'm not even really sure how he.
Just make weight, man. Make weight.
Is he fighting at middleweight or 70? I don't even know.
It's a middleweight, I think.
As a middleweight. You know, Schaub said that he thought the only reason he was on that fight was because that they wanted to have somebody that had fought GSP to kind of bring relevance to the fans. So
it says 185.
Yeah. Well, surely he won't have any trouble making that. But then again, he missed against Boach.
And he's fighting a guy that's 10-0 with 9 knockouts. Yeah.
They're
26 years old.
Sending him to the Wolves for sure. And you know, he's going back to Jackson to try. Here we are talking about him. But
we said we weren't doing this.
He went back to Jackson and tried to revive his career, and I just think it's too late. I don't think he was that. To me, I remember reading an article on, God, I don't even know, whenever he was first out of college, and he was talking about being a champion. I was like, yeah, right, dude, you'll never touch gold, and sure enough, he was up there winning the title, which made me sick, but I just never felt like he was that talented of a guy. It didn't seem like he was that dynamic, pretty much. Just controlled where the fight went with the wrestling, and then landed a bomb on somebody, and that was his only hope. I mean, you know, it is what it is. I never was a fan of him.
I never thought anything of him. They fought GSP, and just the way he acted afterwards. I mean, yeah. I understand being upset you lose, but
I don't even
remember excuses.
I don't even remember who he beat to win the title. So, you know, and then his title run was pretty short-lived after that. So he had the 2 fights with Robbie Lawler, the very close one, and then the one where Robbie Lawler took the belt. So, you know, it is what it is. It's ancient history. I think his time is long past, and I think that this weekend could spell the end for his career. But the first fight we want to talk about was Masvidal versus Thompson. You know, I guess it's a pretty intriguing matchup on paper because you got 2 dynamic strikers, but I'm not really sure. You know, the note that I put down here is why. I'm not really sure what you do even with the winner of this fight. You know, Thompson, I don't think that he's going to get another title shot because of, you know, his kind of boring performances in the last 2 that he had. And Masvidal, I'm not sure that his resume, you know, boosts him up to get a title shot after coming off a decision loss to Damian Maia. So, you know, I guess he did. He beat Cowboy after that, didn't he? Did he beat Cowboy before or after?
Before.
So he beat Cowboy before, and then he lost to Maia.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure that he gets a title shot after this. So it's just kind of one of those fights where I guess it's just for the fans. It's an interesting matchup. You know, obviously, Masvidal, I would say that he's probably the more well-rounded fighter. Would you think that statement would be true? I think he can control the I guess where it goes a little bit better than Thompson can, because obviously he has the ability to take it down in some type of jiu-jitsu where I think Thompson's pretty much a stand-up fight only. I've never seen him use really anything other than try to get back to his feet.
Yeah. but he's so good at that one dimension he does.
Yeah, I would say he's a more technical, clean striker. You know, I don't even know who I would give the advantage to in the power department. Maybe Masvidal, especially in the hands. Obviously Thompson with the feet. But you know, it's a really intriguing matchup that, you know, you're getting two guys that you're not really sure where they are. You know, Masvidal coming off his decision loss. Thompson, to my knowledge, I don't think he's fought since losing the title fights, and you know, those are pretty boring performances. Obviously weren't either guy's best, so you know, maybe they'll come out with trying to prove a point, but
I can't see no way this fight's boring. I mean, I just think
think so.
I mean, this could be 5-9 on the card, in my opinion, if they come out and just.
You don't think there's any chance that they could be reserved at all, just kind of worrying about the stakes and what it means for their career? Because a loss for either guy could, you know, it's going to put them one step closer away from that title shot. You know, especially in a day and age where it's kind of, what have you done for me lately? So,
I don't know, man.
yeah.
I think it's mostly one of these things, like, just put them in there and hope it's a good fight for the fans. I mean, I'm excited to see it.
I think that's the same. And see, I'm not as excited because I don't really have any vested interest in either guy. I've never liked either one of them, really. I think that Thompson would probably have the edge on the feet just because of the kicking factor. But I think that Masvidal obviously has the power to catch him. And, you know, kind of the wild card is if he tries to make it a grappling match, what happens then? So, what are you thinking as far as how the fight plays out?
I didn't really see Masvidal really grapple either from what I've watched.
No, but, you know, there's a lot of scenarios the guys get thrown in that they have to do things that they didn't do before because it's a different level. And, you know, I honestly thought the Cowboy was a different level striker with Masvidal, but that didn't turn out so well either. So,
yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's going on the ground. I think it's going to be a.
Do you think it's going to be a finish, or do you think it's going to be a decision? I mean,
I don't know, man. It's hard to say.
It's definitely hard to say because Woodley was so powerful and he caught Thompson with some pretty clean shots and couldn't put him away.
So you wouldn't think Masvidal would have the power to do it.
Yeah, and Masvidal's kind of the same way. I've never really seen him, you know, kind of be taken out of a fight either, and he's fought some pretty strong strikers as well. So I mean, I think it honestly has the potential to be a decision, and it's kind of who plays a better game. And you know, like I said, if Masvidal's getting beat up with kicks and punches, does he try to take it to the ground and try to grind out a decision? I don't know.
I think Wonder Boy's probably got better takedown defense than people give him credit for. I would have to think that the people he's trained with.
Yeah, that's probably true. And you know, Woodley's obviously a different animal from a Masvidal or anybody else in the division. So, you know, are you leaning towards Thompson in that fight?
If I'm picking, I'm going Thompson.
Yeah, just because of.
I just think his style, he's eventually going to land something, and whether he finishes or not,
yeah,
you know, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who I would pick if, you know, just to be a contrarian. Then I would say that I think that Masvidal has more in his toolbox and he could possibly get him down and like I said, grind out some of the type of decision. But then again, if he doesn't get him down, then you know, Thompson's probably going to be able to use his kicks and strikes and combinations. I'm not sure he can put him away, but he can put enough together to probably win some type of decision. And you know, if he does catch him with one of those big kicks, you know, there's not many people that are going to be able to take it. So, you know, he came on like a storm, and I haven't really seen him finish a whole lot of fights lately. Of course, he was fighting for the title. So,
I seen him finish Johnny Hendricks.
Hey, yeah, I'll take that. So,
no, I was impressed.
Moving on to the next fight, you've got the ladies' title fight, Joanna versus Rose, and you know, seeing this scenario and kind of having like you said, a potential fight of the night performance, and then going into that 5-round fight, I'm always a little bit concerned because we've sit through so many of the ladies' 5-round fights lately. You know, it just seems like that they're very technical, but they don't have a lot of power to put each other away. And my concern is that this fight could hijack it because, I mean, I'm not invested in either one of these, and I'm so excited to see the top two fights. You know, I'm going to be kind of chomping at the bit to get these out of the way so I can see those top two.
It'll be pull time.
But you kind of like Joanna, right? Kind of a fan.
I like her. I mean, I like her style. So she elbows, knees. I mean, whatever she can hit you with, she's gonna try to hit you with.
Yeah.
I think she tries to finish fights.
Oh yeah, for sure.
She just don't have the power,
Yeah, for sure. And that's so strange to think with her kickboxing background that she gets in there and she can't finish the fight with these little gloves on. But I don't know what Rose's answer is for that. I don't. To me, I look at Rose's resume and she's kind of unorthodox. She looks good hitting pads. She's got some kind of crazy submissions that she can throw in there. But I'm not sure there's a scenario for her to beat Joanna. Would you say that that's a fair assessment?
I think the only way she's got to get to the ground somehow and just ground out. I mean, try to wear her out, make her tired, and just.
Yeah, but how does she do that? Because I think a lot of people have tried to go that route with Joanna, and they just kind of get buzzsaw coming in. So, what is the answer? Do you think?
I just think she's tougher. To be honest with you.
You think Joanna's tougher, or do you think Rose is tougher?
I think Rose is tougher than probably some of these other girls. She might not be as talented
or
skilled, but
right.
She kind of grew up, if you know anything about her, pretty rough past.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I don't know a lot about her. I know that she's married to Pat Barry, and she had that cool buzz cut going on for a while.
Yeah, I need to explain that to me.
But an interesting point that I've heard Eddie Bravo talk about in a lot of these fights, where it seems like you have one obvious better striker than the other counterpart, is pulling guard, and I feel like with Damian Maia and Tyrone Woodley, I remember talking about that in scenarios where they kind of got up close enough to clinch, or even when he shot in and was stuffed in the takedown, he could have still pulled guard from that point. So
the thing about pulling guard is you have to be close enough to where you can be hit.
Exactly. But if you shoot in for a double off of let's say some type of punch combination, maybe 1-2, and you shoot in for a double after that, she stuffs you can still grab a hold of her waist and pull guard and bring her down into your world if you absolutely have to. I'm not really sure if that's a scenario. I think that Rose thinks she can probably stand with her. I think a lot of people think that, though. Do you think that that's fair, or do you think that Rose truly just wants to get it down to the ground?
I don't think anyway she wants to stand with her. I think she wants to stand as long as she has to maybe mix it up to get a takedown.
So even
I don't know what her record is. I think most of her.
I think it's like 6-3.
They're probably submissions.
Yeah, and she doesn't have. Some of her losses aren't that high quality of losses too. So, I just think that Joanna's cleaned out the division. There's not a whole lot left there for her, and I don't know what the answer is, but it would be interesting to see her go down the ground and find some type of, wall that she has to overcome. But I'm not sure that she can get it there. Do you think that she could actually finish Rose here with a plethora of strikes, or do you think that it's going to be?
I mean, it's possible.
What would your money be on though?
Because I was watching the countdown, and she actually finished more girls than I remember. I guess she refought Claudia was a decision, and then what was the Russian girl's name?
I call her KK.
Yeah, because nobody can pronounce her name.
Kowalowicz.
Yeah, I mean that was that was a really close fight from what I remember, but she's more of a stand-up fighter. So.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty close fight, and that was probably the fight with KK was probably the most entertaining fight for me.
Maybe Rose will take whatever she used and had success with it.
Yeah, but I think KK is such a high-end striker, that it would probably be pretty hard for her to imitate that game plan. I think it's an uphill battle for Rose. And
I think the thing with JJ with Rose is I think she has to respect her striking somewhat and her
just because of her power.
Where these last, like Claudia, she just wants to take it down. She didn't have much of a stand-up game. KK was more striking. We didn't know what her grounding was. So at least I think at this fight she has to prepare for both. Yeah. On the ground or on the feet.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a pretty good assessment. Obviously, I would have to lean towards Joanna on this. I think, like I said, I think she cleaned out the division. I think they kind of didn't really have a lot of new blood for her. I think she likes to stay active, and so they gave her Rose here. And, I think it's probably one of the best chances for a finish really on the entire card. But, I mean, it's still a potential to be a decision because of, Rose's toughness, like you said. I'm not really sure how it plays out.
I'm afraid we're going to see a 5-round fight. I'm going to say decision.
So that's your prediction, decision. I understand.
Joanna by decision.
Yeah, I mean, to me, she hasn't shown she puts together fabulous combinations with all different angles and everything else, but they're just so light that it's so hard to finish these fights.
I mean, if you just sit there and like you don't even know much about striking and watch her hit pads, I mean, it'll blow your mind.
Oh,
stuff she can do.
Yeah, for sure. She's definitely very talented. She's just it's just one of those things where it's a new division. Women's MMA in general is just kind of still developing, and so it's not her fault that there's not a whole lot out there for her. And
well, she's another one too that plays mind games going into a fight, and I don't think none of that's working on Rose. I think Rose is kind of
probably not. Yeah, there's certain people it's just not going to work on.
And she's talked about kind of like the McGregor effect, like they're basically defeated when they step in the cage. She said that's not going to happen with her.
Yeah. That's definitely true. It's just my concern is her talent level up there to compete with her, and I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
I mean, it could be. We could all be surprised. A lot of people said that, kind of going to the next fight, that Garbrandt wasn't ready to fight Cruz, and he proved them wrong. I mean, and so there's always the possibility, but the difference between Garbrandt and Rose was that, he was undefeated, and he'd been finishing people and right and left and all that stuff. So it's definitely one of those things that could play in there, and with her toughness, it definitely could end up being a 5-round fight, but I'm not really sure. I still think that Joanna could actually finish her. So stepping up to one of the fights that I'm the most excited about, we got Garbrandt versus Dillashaw. Obviously there's a lot of bad blood coming in because of the whole Team Alpha Male beef, if you want to call it that. I don't even know any other way to call it. All the teammates coming out telling bad stories on Dillashaw.
It's still coming out. I mean,
and you have all the bad blood on the Ultimate Fighter. Garbrandt gets hurt, and the fight's kind of been brewing for a very long time. So what are your thoughts on this fight? To me, it's crazy. It's almost too crazy to call.
It's a hell of a fight. That's I can't see any way it's gonna be boring with the bad blood. The skill sets, I think, basically offset each other.
And I think they know each other really well.
Oh, they have to.
I think that they both know what worked with each other in training, and obviously it's been a while since they've trained together and they've evolved since that point, but there still has to be some form of what worked before that you can put together for a game plan or formula to be able to make it effective against that.
Yeah, it's good to see, Dillashaw's left and kind of worked with different people. He's had to evolve and learn different things.
Yeah.
The thing that scares me is Garbrandt because he's been training with the same people.
Yeah.
He's got to evolve at some point. We've seen it,
but he hits like a Mack truck too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of his outlet, and he's had a pretty good wrestling pedigree, and he's kind of put that together to make this. kind of wild, crazy. He's just so unorthodox with all of his movements, with the angles that he hits, with the way he hits people, with his confidence. He's completely unlike any other guy that I've seen in a long time. And for a guy that's not a big fan of the lighter divisions, he's one of those guys that has really drawn my attention. And, the Dillashaw fights with Barral were super exciting as well. And so I was watching kind of those fights, and then you got Cruz coming back, and then the emergence of Garbrandt. So to me, it's a really exciting division. Like you said, though, Dillashaw's trained with a lot of different people, and he's such a high-end wrestler that it concerns me if he had some type of success in training using his wrestling, if Garbrandt's had enough time to overcome that.
I think we're going to know early on. If Dillashaw comes out in the first round, second round, and shoots, I think that's clearly going to be his game plan. He thinks he needs to get off the ground where he has an advantage.
Right. But don't you think, even if he's not successful, that Dillashaw's get enough on his feet with his angles and with everything that he uses as well as footwork, that he can
absolutely
be competitive?
Oh, yeah.
And Garbrandt's so good with moving his head, and it's truly one of the most intriguing matchups and one of the hardest fights to call that I remember in a very long time, because I feel like anything could happen. I feel like if you come out in the first round and Garbrandt could touch him and put him down and be the end of it. I feel like it could come out in the first round and Dillashaw could shoot in and hit him with a takedown, or maybe Garbrandt's striking isn't as good as what we thought because of the guys that he's been fighting, and now he's fighting Dillashaw, and they know each other well enough that it's just all-out war. I feel like any scenario is possible.
Cody impressed the hell out of me when he fought. Cruz.
Cruz, yeah.
Just Cruz is a guy that dances around, and uses angles, and Cruz had nothing for him. It's like when he went to move, Garbrandt was already there.
It wasn't even that close a fight. Dropped him multiple times. was moving.
A lot of the shots he hit him with, he didn't look like he had full power. So I mean, he's got power in his hands.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody else before Cruz, he was putting on Dream Street. And then he gets to Cruz, and Cruz is just such an elite fighter and has such good head movement. And a lot of those shots, he was moving away, and so it wasn't getting full power on him and everything like that. And, it begs the question, you've got Dillashaw, who had such a competitive fight with Cruz when Cruz came back, and he won, the title back in a close decision. And then you got Garbrandt, who pretty much blew him out of the water. So, basically what Dillashaw is saying is that Cruz just had an off night. And, he's had 2 surgeries and everything else, and he had an off night, and that's the reason Garbrandt was.
It's hard to compare 2 fighters fought the same guy to compare how their styles make fights. And
yeah,
I mean, Cruz fights a lot like them too, but I don't think his striking is nearly. His is more angles than combinations or.
I feel like no matter who wins, that we are all going to win, because I feel like it's such a competitive, good matchup, and there's so many exciting matchups at the top of that division that you can interchange. And these guys are both relatively young, getting towards the peak of their career, and I feel like it could be kind of the next big trilogy fight as far as these matchups. I'm not saying that they'll all happen consecutively or anything like that, but
I mean, they could. You go out 5 rounds, it's razor close. I mean, because Cruz has got a fight coming up. Other than that, I mean, who's close to the title shot? 35.
There's not a lot going on there. You got Cruz fight Jimmy Rivera at the end of the year, and I feel like he could fight the loser of that, and then the winner of that fight come back in for the title shot. But I feel like that scenario only really, I guess it works for either guy. I mean, even if Garbrandt drops the title, he could drop it. He could fight Cruz the next, and then that could be the title eliminator. I really don't know, and it's just so exciting to kind of fill in all those.
But Garbrandt's saying if he wins, he's going down to fight 125.
That's true.
It's Dillashaw Cruz rematch.
That's true.
Winner of that,
Yeah, that really opens it up, and I forgot about that aspect of it, because I think that either guy's probably going to drop down to fight Mighty Mouse. I think they're going to make him fight him. I think it would be much better for the UFC if he came up to 35 and fought him, because there's just so many guys that are going back and forth, and there's so many interim belts now, and it's hard to keep up with. I feel like the best case scenario and the right thing for Mighty Mouse to do is to step up to 35, because then we'll really see how great Mighty Mouse is, because I don't think he's that great. I think he's a product of his division, and he's had the ability to kind of clean it out, kind of like Joanna.
Yeah, he acts like you don't want to do it, but I think it's safe for him. If he goes to 35 and you lose to the champion.
And they're like, oh, you got to beat by the chin. Yeah.
Well, you all lost to a bigger guy.
That's a really good point.
If Garbrandt comes down to 125 and beats you, it's gonna. I think
that's gonna.
You're gonna look at your whole career differently.
Yeah, they're gonna be talking about Garbrandt as the best fighter under 55 as opposed to Mighty Mouse, and Mighty Mouse being called the pound for pound king or the greatest of all time, to me is just it's hilarious, because you look at the resume of guys that he's beaten. But if he comes up and he beats them, or even if they come down and he beats them, I feel like that's a really good. That's probably his most quality win, without a doubt, because he didn't have that much success at 35 before. And
I'm gonna pay to watch a Mighty Mouse fight.
Yeah, absolutely, and nobody pays for it.
And that's the payday he's looking for. He should have fought Dillashaw first.
Well, they offered him a lot of money to fight him, and he turned it down. I mean, he's got nobody to blame but himself. He wanted a layup.
And you think it was because he was chasing the Anderson Silva?
Absolutely. He wanted to lay up to get that. He didn't want to risk it. He wanted to get that. And he wants to act like he's the greatest of all time and talk about it. But when push comes to shove and he gets the offer on there to fight Dillashaw for a lot of money, he turns it down. He's selling the fans wolf tickets. That's all he's doing. He's not being able to back it up. And now the time has come where he's going to have to back it up. I mean, there's nobody else to fight in his division. He's over there trying to scramble and make up a title contender, and he can't. And I think that by grabbing the mic by either guy, Dillashaw or Garbrandt, it's going to be a pretty positive message for the UFC to make that fight happen. And I don't think that he can run anymore. And to me, I think Dillashaw had a pretty good run. I don't think Dillashaw is nearly as marketable as Garbrandt, and I think that the best case scenario for everyone is if Garbrandt wins, because he will grab that mic and call it Mighty Mouse.
Who don't like a guy that talks trash and covered tattoos and
goes
out there and knocks you out
and back it up? And that gives everybody the Dillashaw Cruz rematch too. And I mean, if Cruz is able to escape Jimmy Rivera, because that's a pretty tough matchup for him. But, you know, even if Jimmy Rivera wins that fight, you can still have Jimmy Rivera versus Dillashaw. So there's lots of good matchups there.
Yeah.
And the Mighty Mouse fight is only going to build that one way or the other. If Garbrandt drops down, and I don't see any scenario that he loses to Mighty Mouse, but let's say he does, I mean, he still is the 35-pound champ. So he come back up and defend the title. So I feel like good things. You know, do you have a clear-cut favorite in that fight, or?
I'm going to go with Garbrandt just because of his knockout power.
I agree with you there, but the wrestling of Dillashaw scares me. And
didn't he try to eventually mix it up with takedowns, and that wasn't successful either?
Yeah, I just think that Dillashaw's a better wrestler than him. But then again, Garbrandt's so light on his feet and can move around so good, and does have a wrestling background as well, and probably could have been a collegiate wrestler if he hadn't chosen the path of fighting. Well, he was a collegiate wrestler, but he could have been higher up with that. I have to agree with you, and I honestly hope that it's Garbrandt, because I do hope that Judgment Day comes for Mighty Mouse. I'm not a fan of the guy. I've never been a fan of him back to the beginning, and he might be able to win me over if he's able to fend off Garbrandt or Dillashaw, either one. But I don't see a scenario where that happens. I think he knows it, and I think that's the reason he's avoided those fights so far. So.
I'm with you.
All right, so then it's the big main event, Bisping versus GSP. We have been long-term GSP fans. It seems like we're the only ones of the groups that have kind of been ardent supporters of him through thick and thin. And he didn't pick an easy challenge coming back, and it's kind of frightening. Not only is he coming off of a 4-year-plus layoff, but he's also fighting the middleweight champion of the world in a different weight class from when he left. So I did not get to see the countdown yet. I spent my time preparing for this today. So
I watched it last night. It's really the same stuff you've already seen.
So nothing new, nothing groundbreaking.
Because remember back in the day we talked about watching the old UFCs? That was like, you watch the same countdown for an hour. Yeah. But now, like with social media, you've been seeing it.
Yeah, that's true too. And I didn't think about that. But I really wanted to see his training. I wanted to see what he looked like sparring. I'll never forget, one of the most powerful moments for me is whenever it was the second BJ Penn fight, and I remember Zahabi talking about the training, and it says it literally takes an entire army of men to put a chink in GSP's armor, and basically there's just a lot of guys in there just coming in there fresh guy after
fresh gauntlet.
Yeah, and so that really stuck with me, and I wanted to see if he was still that guy, if he was still training that hard, if he still had top-level guys. I know he's got top-level jiu-jitsu guys that he's been training with Danaher and bringing in, I don't remember his last name, but his first name is Gordon. He just won a pretty big grappling tournament. I know they've been training together a lot, but I haven't really seen who
he's been training a lot with Jake Shields, too, which is something I never thought I would see.
I think they trained together before they fought. So, but my concern is, who is he training with as far as the stand-up goes? Is he bringing in high-level stand-up guys? I know he's been still going down to Freddie Roach, and
Freddie's gonna be in his corner.
Yeah,
like first time ever. So
well, I know he's been going down there training boxing, but to me, with as good as Bisping's boxing is, to me, I would think that Muay Thai would be a really big key to this fight. I think that leg kicks and kind of throwing him off with kicks. I don't think Bisping's going to want to kick at all, because I think he knows that GSP could grab that leg when he does. So to me, that was one of the things I want to see. I want to see his training. I want to see what he was focusing on, because I do feel like that Muay Thai is going to play a big role. I mean, I know he has a karate background, but he hasn't used a lot of Muay Thai in all his fights. Every now and then he'll throw a high kick or something. But even against like Diaz, he really didn't beat up his legs, and a lot of guys have used the leg kicks to beat up Diaz, and I feel like it could be a really good way to kind of stop Michael Bisping's progression, because Michael Bisping is going to be trying to come forward. He might be a little bit more reserved than he has been in the past, because I think if he knows he leaves himself out there with combinations, he's going to end up on his butt. So, I mean, it's very scary for me. I'm always going to go with GSP. I'm never going to pick against him, kind of like Fedor. And, sooner or later it's obviously going to bite me, but I think this is a good matchup for him. I think it's a better matchup than Woodley is. I think Woodley has more skills than Bisping does. Obviously, Bisping, I would give him the advantage in the striking department. Would you say? Would you
I don't
say?
know, man, he's a great boxer, but GSP's so technical.
Yeah,
And I would think he's got to have the greatest jab in MMA history.
for sure. But is he going to be able to effectively use it? That's the question.
I don't know that, you know, they don't really know the size difference. So they get in there and they don't have these suits and stuff on, and, you know.
I don't feel like the weight
But
difference.
GSP should clearly be quicker, I would think.
But he looks pudgy and everything I see. It looks like he's had to force himself to put this weight on, so I'm not sure that he'll be the quicker fighter. You know, obviously you said the technique is going to be there, and you know you hear Connor talking about technique beats, you know, everything. But is he going to be able to land the jab if Bisping's a taller, longer fighter? And that's the question. He was able to do it against Nick Diaz, which Nick Diaz has those freaking condor arms. So you would think he would be able to do it against Bisping, but he's also going to have to protect himself from not leaving that jab out there and you know, Bisping coming back with some type of combination. Because I do feel like even though Bisping got a reputation for not being able to finish people, you know, he's kind of shown the ability to finish people here lately. And, you know, it would be a concern with me, and the only concern that I really have is Bisping being able to put a combination together enough to stun George, get him down, and finish on the strikes. I'm not sure that he has one punch knockout for him.
It's going to have to be something that George don't see coming.
For sure.
You know, I've never seen Bisping lay anybody out with one punch. Even Rocco, the punch wasn't that hard. It was just kind of perfectly placed.
Yeah.
You know, Rocco's chin was in there. And
spun him around, and the next thing you know, Bisping jumps on him and puts several together. And that's a scenario that he could finish this fight. I feel like it's the only scenario he can finish this fight. You know, obviously the safe money is on George by submission, or on George by decision. But I think the submissions could play a big factor as well. I think he could get Bisping down, and Bisping could try to scramble to get up or something like that, and he could get his back. I mean, it happened to a lot of high-level wrestlers whenever George kind of first came into the UFC. You know, obviously choked Frank Trigg to death from that position. So I feel like that George should. I'm not sure if combinations are the answer, but the jab and the leg kicks to kind of, like I said, stop Bisping's progression forward.
I think you're right on the leg kicks. I would wear his legs out.
That's the only way I can see, because you're not going to be able to stop. Sooner or later, the jab will work. Yes, he's going to come forward and you're going to be able to keep him off the jab. But sooner or later, you're going to have to do something more than just a jab, because he's going to be able to time that. He's going to be able to learn how to slip it, and then he can land a hook or whatever
If you
else.
go back and watch some of Bisping's fights, he gets hit with almost like, I don't know if it's overhand right or straight right, about every fight.
Yeah, and I think that's the side that his eye is on, right? The one that's kind of.
Sure, you might be right.
I think it's the side, and even before that, you know, Bisping or Henderson was landing the bomb on him, and that's what he was able to finish him with.
And even like their last fight, I mean, it's the same thing. That right, straight right, overhand right.
Yeah.
Which you remember GSP hit? Who was it?
Jake Shields. He hit Jake Shields.
Jake Shields. I think he hit Fitch with it. Knocked one out. You know, I mean, he's got a good overhand right if he'll use it.
But what does he do after that? Does he use that overhand right to get it to the ground? Because I'm not sure that he can finish Bisping. I mean, Bisping is a very durable guy, a very tough guy. It hasn't been finished by really anybody other than Henderson. And Tim Kennedy beat the brakes off of him, which, you know, it's a scenario that's possible. But I think that GSP's best chance is obviously to use his jab, his leg kicks, get the progression started, and then when Michael Bisping gets frustrated and overextends himself, put him on his butt. Use strikes, try to advance the position. I think the jiu-jitsu is a big key. I think the GSP's jiu-jitsu is a lot better than Michael Bisping's. And I think he's going to be, I don't know if they just say that GSP's so strong. And like everybody that's kind of trained with both of them says that they think that GSP has the strength advantage, which, you know, that's kind of, I guess, mind-boggling to consider that there's probably going to be a pretty big weight gap. Because I would say that GSP is probably going to be 190, 195, and what do you think, Michael Bisping, 200, 205, something like that?
It'd be around 205, I think.
Yeah, so I think that Bisping is going to be the bigger guy, but I'm not sure that makes him the stronger guy. So
Chael Sonnen was kind of saying the same thing you were saying there. Like, he thinks GSP is just naturally stronger.
Yeah, I mean, some guys are just freaky strong.
It's interesting if he gets him down, is he going to keep him down?
Yeah,
I mean, he had a hard time keeping Johnny Hendricks down, and you know he fought him 170. Of course, he weighs like 800 pounds.
You know, shout out to Matt Holland. I grappled with a lot of strong guys, and Matt Holland's the only guy that when he grabbed me by my wrist, I thought it was going to turn into butter. I just thought it was going to just melt. And so, I have felt that kind of strength, and a lot of those guys aren't that big, So I mean, GSP.
He's pretty big.
He was pretty big.
Did he kind of say the same thing about McGraw though? I mean, he's not an overly big guy, but when he grabbed you,
there's guys that just have strength that don't don't compute with their body size, and GSP seems to be that guy and seems to literally manhandle everybody. He's pretty much. There was a long period of time where he didn't even lose a round. So I mean, I feel like the intriguing matchup back in the day was GSP versus Anderson Silva, and I feel like that Michael Bisping is just an easier fight than GSP versus Anderson Silva, and I'm not sure that Michael Bisping's takedown defense is that much better than Anderson Silva's. I mean, I think that Bisping's wrestling is probably better, but I'm not sure if it's good enough to hold GSP off. So
I think he's gonna get him down at some point. It's just can he keep him there?
For sure.
Like you said, maybe he scrambles, puts a rear naked on or something.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm compelled to say this, and I've tried to sway away from picks, but I really see GSP being able to get him down and finish him with some type of submission. I mean, I just think that GSP's wrestling is on a different level, and I think that he's going to be able to get him down using just bare minimum techniques. The jab, the leg kick, maybe a cross every now and then. And I feel like Bisping's going to get frustrated and overextend, and when he does, GSP's been able to get to those hips and put him down on his back, and I feel like that Bisping's probably going to scramble and try to get up, and that's GSP's so good at when he hits that takedown, he's already in half guard like that. I mean, he just clears that leg through and he's in half guard like that.
Bisping's aware of that. He's like GSP has got it's timing.
Yeah,
everything's perfectly timed.
But how do you stop it? Nobody else has
figured it out.
And there's been a lot better wrestlers that he's fought than Michael Bisping. You look at the list of guys that he's beaten: John Fitch, Johnny Hendricks, Josh Koscheck, super elite grapplers, and they haven't been able to stop it. Granted, they're smaller guys, but
Jake Shields.
I don't think
he goes to the ground. He couldn't grapple GSP.
Couldn't do anything. So, what's your pick? Do you think that it's a GSP decision, or?
I'm gonna go with decision because that's just what I've seen so many times, and
So
you don't know. He's promising a new GSP. He's gonna use new things, and maybe he goes 185 and it's like a truck. We don't know.
Who knows? I mean, and only time will tell. It's kind of like you said about the Garbrandt-Dillashaw fight. We're gonna learn pretty quickly what's up with it. But what do you think is as far as what's in the future for these guys? I mean,
let me say first. I think GSP. I think he needs to go down and almost take a punch. I think. I want to see him get hit and mentally know he's in the fight. Because he's been off for so long. I'm kind of worried about where his head's at.
Well, I'd say that he got a lot of those butterflies out and a lot of those uncertainties out in the gym. I would hope so. I would hope that he's.
I've seen a lot of people on there. They're making a big deal about confrontations. He's got his hands in his pockets, and I don't think it's a big deal. Because you don't see GSP never really gets worked up.
It takes me back to when Matt Hughes and him were in the house. I mean, everybody said the same crap about that. Matt Hughes was all over him, and he embarrassed Matt Hughes twice in a row. And I don't buy into that at all. I think George has been around it long enough. I think he's taken enough hits. I don't need to see him take a hit. I hope he doesn't get hit once. I hope he slips a punch, hits Bisping with a takedown, takes his arm home with him, and calls out Conor McGregor. I mean, that was the ultimate goal. I mean, Conor McGregor come back and defend the belt at 55. They meet in the middle at 70 and call it a day. I mean, that's the biggest fight in UFC history, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of the way I see the future going. I don't think that I don't believe anything anybody says. I don't care what Dana White, the UFC, anybody says. If GSP wins on Saturday night, I don't see him defending that title. There's nothing there for him. I mean, I don't care if it's in his contract or not. There's nothing there to make GSP versus Whitaker. There's no draw to it. I mean, GSP versus McGregor, big draw. GSP versus Woodley, decent draw. But GSP versus Whitaker, to me, there's no draw there. I mean, I don't think Whitaker's a big enough name, to the American public especially. I feel like Woodley's a bigger name and McGregor's just on a different stratosphere. And I feel like both McGregor and GSP know that fight's going to happen. I feel like, you could literally sell out any stadium on planet Earth, whether it be soccer stadium, football stadium, basketball. It doesn't matter.
Where do you have that fight at?
To me, I would have it in Montreal or Dublin and find the biggest soccer stadium or football stadium I could find and pack it 70,
You
90.
give one guy the advantage that way, I feel, but because I almost think you could put this anywhere and it's going to sell.
Anywhere, but where do you put it on middle ground that's a big enough draw? I mean, you want those fans to be involved in it. You know, you want, you know, and GSP is probably the best guy to come to town to ground out Conor McGregor. He's probably the best case scenario to do that. So, something wrong?
We had some technical difficulties. The microphone hasn't been plugged in. I was gonna try to.
It's not been plugged.
No, it's still picking up everything, but it's just like not as loud. And it's probably All right.
Good to go then.
Yeah, we're good to go now.
So David's always got our back. But yeah, so I feel like it sells out anywhere, and I don't know where you make it in between that makes it as exciting as Montreal or Ireland. You know, if I was GSP, I wouldn't care where it was. Both those guys are going to make so much money, they're going to be able to bathe in it. So it doesn't really matter to me where it's at. That's not the important part.
I'd say put Montreal in. Connor come in, run his mouth, and Canadians are crazy. And
yeah, and Connor's definitely more suited because
he would eat that up.
I can see a scenario in Dublin where it's like Rocky. The fans end up loving GSP in the end. So, but I think it's kind of the end of the road for Bisping either way. I don't see Bisping be able to defend the title even if he's able to beat GSP.
Against any of those guys.
And I think it's the best case scenario for GSP if he comes back and he loses to Bisping, unless he just gets flat out embarrassed. I mean, everybody's going to say, like you said earlier, he went up a weight class, he's been off 4 years, they're going to give him excuses, he's not even going to have to say a word. So
he's a smart guy, I trust him. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, as far as looking at the future, some of the exciting matchups on the horizon would be the UFC 218. You got Alvarez versus Gaethje. I think that's just going to be a complete war altogether. And then you got the Frankie versus Holloway fight. And I know me and you are probably both excited.
I'm pumped for that.
So,
I'm a big Frankie fan.
I feel like we're kind of talking about.
Is that on the same card?
Yes.
That's going to be a good one.
I feel like that it's kind of a turning point for the UFC. We were talking about the sales being so far down. Not really knowing what's next for them, but I really feel like, this moment of having the GSP Bisping fight, even though it doesn't seem like it's generating the excitement that it probably should, I feel like the cards from here on out are better because you got that one, and then you roll into UFC on Fox 26, you got Lawler versus Dos Anjos, which is huge title implications. It's 170 pounds. Then you got Aldo versus Lamas on the same card, which, I would assume that either one of those guys are right there for the 145-pound title, which you got, the title fight right before that with Holloway versus Frankie right before that, and then right after that you got a title eliminator for that. So, that's pretty strong to wait at the end of the year. I think UFC 219 kind of leaves a lot to be desired. You got Barbosa versus Khabib. I don't see that fight selling anyway. That's the headliner at this point. So I feel like UFC really needs to do something and get something good together for that.
They're trying to get the women's championship on that. And they named a fight. I think she got a car wreck or.
Yes, I think she broke her leg.
Nunez against
right.
Raquel Pennington.
Yeah, Raquel Pennington broke her leg.
She signed it that day and then got a car wreck that afternoon or something crazy. So.
Yeah. But even still, I'm not sure that even if you add that one to that card, it's going to sell. You're going to have something better than that.
She's calling out Kat Zingino or whatever.
Zingano.
Nobody wants to see that fight.
Yeah, the most interesting part about 219 is the return of Carlos Condit, which once again in the land that the killer is 170 pounds. He's had a lot of time off, and I hope he's been training and kind of getting his mind right because he was right there, and even when he got hurt. He's super competitive with Woodley right before he got hurt. So, a lot going on there to end of the year. I wish that they would boost 219. to kind of put a really good cap on it. And who knows? There's a lot of time between now and then. Maybe something from one of these cards will kind of roll over into that, and they'll be able to put something together. And then, of course, at the beginning of the year, you got Rory McDonald versus Lima and Bellator for the 170-pound belt. I feel like 170 pounds is the best division on planet Earth. And there's a lot of exciting matchups with that. You got Korshkov on the horizon. You got Paul Daly just knocked out Lorenz Larkin. So a lot of exciting things at 170 pounds. And UFC just signed up to do 220 in Boston. And I've been kind of hearing rumblings that might be the return of the Mac. So I'm sure that would be.
Is it true they're finally working on a deal for?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean,
that's what I've heard.
It seems like he's on like the medical time as far as how he works his deals out. It takes such a slow burn to get it to the point where he actually signs the fight. I'm sure that it's going to be a title unification bout, and everything he touches, he sells, even though I think that's a really bad matchup for him. But I think either way, I think that the GSP fight is probably paramount in his mind, or even the Diaz kind of trilogy, putting a cap on it and selling it for a soccer stadium and trying to ride off into the sunset. But to me, GSP versus McGregor's is too much money to leave on the table. I think it's a lot more ludicrous than the Diaz trilogy fight. So
it'll be $100 pay-per-view. I guarantee you.
GSP?
Yeah.
I'll pay for it. I wouldn't even think about it. So we've kind of got all the MMA stuff, a lot of information crammed in there. So kind of move away from it a little bit, and I'll let you and David talk about UK basketball a little bit, since I see that you're wearing the UK sweatshirt.
You excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. Did you go to the game Monday?
No, I haven't been to one.
No, I didn't know, because they didn't play it on TV. I didn't watch it, but
yeah.
He's got the Kentucky sweatshirt. I've got my alma mater, Morehead State. They played Monday night. I didn't watch it. You didn't watch it. I guess Morehead cut it close for a little bit. But
Morehead shot the lights out. Like
yeah, that's what they said.
21 from the three. I mean,
Cal talks about this team not.
He says they stink.
Yeah, it says their
words. I did hear that.
But he says that every year.
Yeah, he says that every year. I don't believe anything he ever says. So.
You think he's the ultimate salesman?
Yeah, but
he can still water it well.
Yeah. The original podcast we kind of talked about, basketball. I'm always looking forward to it. It's the only team I like that's good. The only team I root for that ever wins anything. But I think I'm still on football, especially after that big Tennessee win on Saturday. Do you think that Steven Johnson was going to pull it off?
Man, guys, he may not be the most talented, but he lays it all out there. He's just a winner.
He somehow wins.
He's a winner. That's the way you describe it.
There's a lot of Kentucky quarterbacks I'd put in front of him, like ability-wise, but just the way, I don't know.
The first play back in the game, he pulls the ball down and just runs, and lands right on the shoulder.
I didn't think it took, and then Barker came in and stunk it up again.
Oh, God.
So
he's been like a big piece of bust, ain't he?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say. I mean, he could still start next year, so who knows if he doesn't transfer.
I think he might transfer.
Yeah, because there's, 3 other guys they got a recruit coming in next year.
Dan Clark is supposed to be good below him already. And then
Gunnar Hope.
Jaron, what's his name? Jaron Williams?
He's the guy supposed to come in next year.
Yeah, he's supposed to be
Williams.
They're calling us he's going to be our Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to be that dual threat quarterback.
That's what they're saying on the radio, but I don't believe any of that stuff till I see it, because they said that about Drew Barker, and I said that about Patrick Tolles. Patrick Tolles was really good, but didn't win any games. Benny Snell had a really good game Saturday, but he's had a lot of really good games. I didn't think they were going to win that game because the turnovers.
Football would have lost that game.
Yeah, because the turnovers. That still blows my mind how they beat that Tennessee team, and Butch Jones still has a job.
They fumbled 4 times on their side of the field. It helped. 3 of the 4 they had field goals and no points on them. Stepped up defense. That was without them.
This is one of the best Kentucky teams. It's the best of my lifetime. But it still doesn't feel like it. I don't know. Maybe I'm not just. I feel like I'm not all in on Mark Stoops yet. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but
I think it's better than the Andre Woodson team.
Yeah. I mean, on paper it is, but I mean, but when you're watching it, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm not sold on it.
They didn't put up as much offense. I don't feel like, with Woodson, he was in the Heisman conversation for a while. I have a Andre Woodson for Heisman UK shirt. It's like one of like the only UK shirts I'll probably ever own.
Yeah,
we were going to a lot of games. Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, like we were saying, they've had like so many talented quarterbacks. Like every year, it seems like they've always had good quarterbacks, but they just never were able to pull it together to, pull out a winning season in conference. I never would have thought that they'd have a winning record in the SEC right now. But I mean, it's a down year, but still.
I mean, it's a long shot. They're still in the running for the East. Yeah.
Just imagine if they beat Florida that game. Florida did like everything like happened in Kentucky's favor. They were playing at Kroger Field, and they still lost the game. I mean, McElwain's not even coaching at Florida anymore, and that's crazy.
We got Ole Miss and Vandy.
Yeah.
She would win both of those.
We should, yeah.
If Auburn could somehow beat Georgia, you go down to Georgia playing for the SEC championship game.
Yeah, but wonder what the score of that would be. We saw them just tear apart.
We're gonna lose like 70-0. Just to have that week.
That was such a sad game to watch.
Would you go to that?
Nah, it's in Georgia. Probably not.
It's in Georgia.
Georgia.
But going back to basketball, Kentucky plays Kansas in a couple weeks. It's going to be a good game.
That's going to be the game we're going to find out what they got.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited for. That's whenever I'll get
and we're going to lose a lot of games this year.
Yeah.
Every year come March, I think we're going to be right up there with everybody else.
That's what all of Cal's teams do. Like, even if they're like awful, except for the NIT year, like, come tournament time, they'll come, the chemistry will be, working well. And they always surprise me. They always play different in the tournament. It's kind of weird, but, it's one of those things.
So you guys don't think that there'll be a big run in March this year?
No, I mean, I think there will be. I mean, there always is.
I think they're going to be there in
yeah.
March.
It's a lot of talent on the team and gives them a whole year to develop, and as long as you can make the tournament, you've always got a chance for sure.
Yeah, but you never know at the tournament too. Like something crazy always happens. Like the year Kentucky had John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins in West Virginia just didn't miss a shot, like a 3-point shot. Weird stuff like that happens. Yeah. Weird stuff like that happens.
The best team doesn't always win.
Yeah.
Last year was the first year of my adult life that I didn't fill out a bracket, so I don't know if I'll fill it. You didn't even do a bracket challenge, did you?
Yeah, I did. I think I invited you to it.
I just wasn't in it.
I'm pretty sure you were in it, maybe.
Last year?
Yeah, I think you put that one.
I don't think so. If I did, then it was an imposter because I don't remember doing it. So, transitioning a little bit before we get to NBA. Well, we might as well do NBA right now. It kind of fits together a little bit better because the last session we kind of talked a little bit about UK basketball transitioning to the NBA. To me, it's a super exciting time for the NBA. I know me and David have talked quite a bit about it. What are your impressions so far of the season, and is anything really sticking out to you?
Well, last week I talked about Giannis for about 20 minutes, and
shut you down on that.
Yeah. I'll go back to that. I think that Giannis is the biggest surprise. I mean, Kobe gave him a challenge to win MVP this year, and he's going all in. I don't know if he's going to beat Westbrook. I mean, he's not going to beat out Westbrook this year if Westbrook keeps playing the way he does. But I mean, you kind of see like a superstar in the making, international guy.
I was going to ask you if you thought that he was still your MVP pick. Is that still what you're going strong with?
Oh, I said Westbrook probably still is, or Harden.
The first podcast you said.
Oh, did I say he was going to win? Oh, probably because, I still think he could win it over Westbrook because Westbrook's got two other guys on his team now, but. And they usually don't give it back to back.
Yeah, Westbrook's not really putting up scoring numbers this year. He's just putting up overall numbers. So.
And Harden still, he could still come out and win one. He should have. If Westbrook didn't have such a monster year last year, any other year, Harden would have been MVP.
Did you notice that the Rockets talk kind of subsided pretty heavily with the Chris Paul injury? Like, I haven't heard a lot about it lately.
Yeah, I know. Pretty much look at it's pretty much the same team they put on the court last year, but without Patrick Beverly.
Yeah, just without the depth.
Beverly was really good though.
Yeah.
Give him that.
My preseason MVP pick was Kyrie, and they obviously got off to a super rough start with the Hayward Gordon injury. but Gordon Hayward injured. But you know, they have kind of seemed to be putting it together a little bit more. Kyrie's still not putting up the numbers that I thought he would necessarily, but you know, I saw that they were on a 5-game winning streak, you know, as of last night. So I feel like they're also moving in a positive direction. I was really pleased to see the way that the Thunder kind of seem to be meshing and putting it all together. I think that they've you know, they've got it all together much faster than a lot of people thought they would.
Yeah.
I think it's because they kind of play at such a elite level, and they play with each other at the Olympics and things like that before.
I thought it'd be comparable to the first year Cavs with, or not Cavs, but the Heat with LeBron and Wade and Bosh, where they went through that struggle for like a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of figured would happen so far, but it hasn't happened yet. I mean, it still could.
I don't think people get. Once again, I don't think that Russ gets their credit for kind of being a facilitator that he deserves for a guy that averaged double digits assists last year. I mean, it's just mind-boggling that everybody considers themselves selfish, and obviously
But he had to be last year. I mean, we'd all agree that. I mean, there was times.
Yeah, but even in being
but
selfish,
he still had double digit.
Yeah.
Nobody could shoot on his team. He still had double digit assists.
Right.
It's crazy.
The difference this year is the quality of assists, because he's got Melo and Paul George to help him out, and those guys are obviously giving up a lot as well.
Yeah.
To come there and make it work. I feel like the Sixers have kind of been my surprise team. I've said like 3 or 4 times, and I guess I'll keep saying it. I think that they're a homegrown super team.
Yeah.
I think that they're probably going to move Okafor and maybe even be able to turn Okafor either into future draft picks or maybe some type of veteran presence, which I think that they really need.
Yeah, they definitely need the veteran presence. But Ben Simmons, I still admit he may not pan out to be, a big, long-time NBA superstar. But, I mean, he's really good this year, and I didn't think he was – I thought he was going to be a flop.
His game seems so much better
than
Lonzo's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so much better. Lonzo's got that really ugly shot. He doesn't seem to be nearly as athletic as Simmons.
Lonzo seems like the type of dude, though, that he seems like he'd be a harder worker just based on, the quality of work I've seen both their college careers or both their short college careers. Lonzo seems to me like he's going to be – I still believe he's going to be a superstar.
I don't know if he'll be a
Ben
superstar.
Simmons dropped out of school after the basketball
Yeah.
season. Over, he didn't even finish.
Yeah.
I mean, that tells you
He played for a losing team he didn't really care about.
But that's one of the things about making these kids go to college. I mean, there's no way that they can be invested in it. There's no benefit to them. I mean, you have to provide some type of benefit, and maybe Lonzo doesn't hit me in the face because he doesn't seem to be a dynamic scorer, and like I said, his shot's so ugly and it seems to work sometimes. But I've been super impressed with the Sixers. I think that they could be a kind of a homegrown super team in the making, and I really feel like my prediction, and we talked about it with the Cavs and the Warriors being down, especially the Cavs. I said I thought the Cavs were probably a much more vulnerable team than the Warriors, and I think they're 3-4 last check. So it seems like they're struggling pretty mightily, and I don't think that there's everybody talks about the depth they have, but the depth, even though it's there, it's not superstars. Rose gets hurt again, just on a funky play, coming down weird on his ankle, and I just don't think that they have the superstars there to bail LeBron out, like Kyrie was. Kyrie was kind of the guy that he can lean on whenever he wasn't able to put up a certain amount of numbers. So I don't really know what it means for the Cavs. I think that they're still obviously going to be a top 3 or 4 team, but I'm not sure that they're the top team in the East anymore. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
They're 3-4 right now.
Maybe it's going to kind of change because they had like an awesome Halloween party, and I was looking at the pictures of it the other day.
That was pretty sweet.
LeBron's house.
Did you see Kevin Love's staying outfit?
That's what I was looking up. Yeah, he was Wolfpack staying too. I think I'm just looking for the picture. I can't
John
find it.
done Chucky. It looked pretty good.
I said LeBron finally found a use for his receding hairline and that giant forehead.
Was that not perfect?
He was the clown from it. So. But yeah, the Warriors are still pretty good team, but they're getting the best shot of everybody, and I think that I think they always got the best shot, but I think that they kind of profited off fear.
Oh yeah, they're in the East, so they could lose. Well, they can't lose LeBron and still win it, but they could lose everybody else besides him. And
I don't know. I think the East is kind of up and coming. You know, Orlando's been a big surprise.
Yeah, that's not going to last.
Boston 5-2 and Orlando 5-2's at the top.
Where does that put Cleveland in the standings?
Oh, they're way down. They're out.
Yeah, because the Pistons.
Playoffs will start. They're out of the playoffs. Right?
Yeah, the Pistons are. They started off pretty good too.
5-3.
Yeah.
It's just so early.
Yeah. It's too early to tell on some of these teams.
I just thought Boston was still going to be kind of the best team in the East, and you know, obviously maybe in the playoffs the Cavs could have been a better team with all their veteran presence and getting more rest and stuff like that. But the Hayward injury changed everything. I still feel like that Boston has a really good core group of guys, but you know, Kyrie's going to have to do more. Al Horford's going to have to do more, and that's a positive thing because they're still going to have to do more, and they're like 6-2. So
yeah,
just a lot. They need more right now, and I'm honestly very excited to see how the season turns out. I'm not getting to watch a lot of games right now, you know, just with the hunting season kind of kicking up, but very excited to watch these games, you know, after the hunting season winds down and into the All-Star break and things like that. So to kind of backtrack a little bit, and you know, we both have World Series picks. I was a little bit nervous going in last night after picking the Dodgers, and you had the Astros, but the Dodgers were able to pull it out with a 3-1 victory, and so we're going into Game 7. And I expect pure pandemonium tonight. What do you think?
I agree. I don't want to forecast it too much because by the time this plays, it'll be over with. But I think that we're going to see every single pitch here, all the big names tonight.
I think it would be really disappointing if you have a 2-1 game in Game 7 after all these games that you've had, because I feel like it's really, the baseball ratings are up big time.
Yeah.
You know, with NFL being down, it's kind of left a void, and this series has been so exciting that it's really kind of brought, you know, that to the forefront to me.
Yeah, in the last 15 years, it's only the fourth Game 7, and this has been the best World Series, and we called it. I think that it might have been the last episode, but I think it was the one before last that we actually got up. We said it was going to go at Game 7. And here we are tonight, Game 7.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I haven't been this excited for baseball in a long time, and I'm not even really. I'm just a fan of the way the Dodgers play. I don't like the Astros. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it.
I like this series because there's there's a good guy of the series. You got Justin Turner. You got the bad guy like Gurriel. It's like a movie almost.
Yeah,
it's
that was ridiculous what he did.
Didn't even get a suspension for this World Series.
And his home run was what?
Won the game. Yeah,
to the Game 5 victory. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
And I thought that was just ridiculous. It was so stupid of him to make that mistake.
That was real classless. I mean,
Altuve's pretty bad guy too.
I don't think so. Altuve's going to win.
Dude hit it 450 something feet, and he's 5'6", 170 pounds. I mean, I'm not saying that he's on some type of special supplement. It's definitely possible that this power came from somewhere. So
Griffey was a smaller guy, but his was in a swing, and then you're seeing him do this.
Griffey's a smaller guy.
I mean, skinny wise, you looked at who else was playing at the time.
Yeah, but he just generated so much.
Off of his swing.
And he used a 38-ounce bat.
Yeah.
It's just science, bro.
That's what I'm trying to say. And when you watch Altuve, he doesn't have
It looks like he uses a 20-ounce bat and it swings 153 miles per hour.
It defies logic.
Compelled by some pretty heavy supplements.
We'll talk about that on the conspiracy theory episode.
Yeah, I can't wait though. I just hope it's not disappointing. That's my biggest hope. Kind of going into that.
Yeah, someone hits a grand slam first inning and that's over.
Why would you even put that? Why'd you put that out there, man?
It's not going to happen. I don't think.
No, even a grand slam, as long as it's a pretty high scoring game. My greatest fear would be that it was a 2-1 game. Like I said, you know.
Last night's game, it was 3-1, but I still enjoyed it. I mean, it was a good game.
It's just so late for me to stay up. I guess I'm gonna have to make the exception and stay up tonight, but it's just so late. So kind of transition away from that and going to the NFL. You know, it was definitely one of the most memorable trade deadlines I've ever in a long time, and it's just so weird that out of the blue, so many marquee names were kind of moving back and forth. So, what were your thoughts about that?
I think the biggest winners, are the Patriots for getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo for a second-round pick. and they got Brian Hoyer back. I mean, the reason I think it is because he's not going to stay through this year, and they get another second-round pick, and Belichick's going to get another quarterback with it, groom him. He's got this thing he's going to keep repeating because his quarterbacks don't go on to achieve great success aside from Brady.
And see, I thought Garoppolo was worth more. But then again, you're kind of
in
a rock and a hard place because you're going to have to pay him $20 million to be a backup. So I actually thought the biggest winners were the Eagles. That's Jeremy's team. And I thought that they're kind of looking like the favorites to win the NFC East already. And then they kind of locked down the running back with the Giant.
Yeah, they're 7-1 though, and they've got a solid, running back core, and they're going to add another guy to it. I mean, I don't know if they'll throw off the chemistry, but I mean, it's kind of risky at this point.
What I'm worried about.
Yeah.
To me, what I would do is I would cut LeGarrette Blount. I would just be done with it. I would show Ajayi he was the guy. You got Wendell Smallwood, the change of back guy, catch the passes coming out of the backfield, and then you got Ajayi who's kind of your wrecking ball. And in the podcast that may come unearthed at some point in time, one of my biggest concerns was, as far as the playoffs, them being able to run the ball and having defense. And I said that before. And, I feel like that really shored up the running game because I just don't know that they're necessarily using them correctly in Miami. And I think that Kenyon Drake may be a better running back anyway, so it's probably going to work out better.
I mean, he definitely was pretty good in college.
Yeah,
I mean,
somebody picked him up off the waiver wire before me.
Wonder who did that.
So what are you thinking about the Eagles at this point? You probably don't want to say too much about to curse it. So.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but I mean they've impressed me this year. Hopefully they just keep winning.
Yeah.
They always usually seem like they get off to good starts and kind of fade. I just don't want to see it happen.
Well, I saw something in Wentz from the beginning. Talked about my dynasty team that was basically eliminated, and he was the quarterback that I took for that dynasty team because I really saw a lot in him, and he doesn't exactly have anything that kind of blows your hair back as far as receivers go. He got Jeffrey, and they haven't really done much with him, but Ertz is obviously the number one tight end in fantasy right now, and I would probably say the number one tight end in football right now. And then I really think that Ajayi secures up the running game because I feel like Blunt has been so inconsistent. So really the biggest question to me would be their defense as far as moving forward to the playoffs. But, the NFC is pretty down right now. I know David's really high up on the Saints. I'm not because I just don't feel like the Saints have the defense. If the Saints are able to hold home court advantage and make somebody come to them, then that would be a difference maker. But, with the Eagles having a better record right now and really probably the better schedule moving forward, just because the NFC South is so competitive and the NFC East is really down right now with kind of the Redskins in no man's land. Ezekiel Elliott being suspended for the 45th time. And, you don't really know what's going on much with that, and I feel like it clears up the East pretty good, and the Eagles may be able to hold court for a home court advantage and then make the Saints come there, and the Saints are prolifically bad on the road in the playoffs. So.
Especially by the time you get to the playoffs, it's probably going to be a blizzard in Philly. It's not like playing in a dome. So
No. The one thing the Saints have going for them, though, I've said it all along. I said it when Peterson got traded. I think Ingram's a much better back than they gave him credit for, and I think he really opens their offense up because their passing offense hasn't been nearly as good as it has been in years past.
No, I think that's still what I think is good because, I mean, it's going to come alive eventually. You got Drew Brees as the quarterback, one of the best gunslingers of all time. I mean, they're going to come together. I mean, their defense, I think that's what they've been lacking for the last, since they won the last Super Bowl. And I think it's coming around.
Their defense is better for sure. I've never been a giant Breeze fan just because I don't like a guy that has to stand on his tippy toes to see over his offensive line. But I keep thinking that their passing game is going to come alive. And I have Michael Thomas, and it just hasn't. So
I mean, Drew Brees puts up the numbers every year.
That's
passing
true.
Numbers that are better than almost anybody.
That's true.
I mean,
Well, it's going to be exciting to see how it plays out. You're talking about the Patriots. I'm not feeling great about where they are right now.
Oh yeah, they're still my favorite AFC.
Yeah,
team.
I think the AFC is pretty open. The Steelers are getting scary though. I mean, the Steelers are they have so many offensive weapons that and the defense on the Patriots have been so bad. It's definitely getting scary, but be pretty neat to see Patriots and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I mean, Jeremy would have to sit in the games. So before we move on to kind of our final closing thoughts here, we kind of mentioned fantasy a little bit. I think that was a great pickup you got today. I offered you a trade that I'm sure that you're going to decline because Kenyon Drake is my guy. I drafted him in Dynasty as well. How are you feeling about your fantasy team? Do you think playoffs are hope, or do you think they're out of reach?
Playoffs are out of reach almost mathematically by now. I haven't really checked to see if I'm all the way out yet, but I put up like a decent game last week, but Mike Fishman just had a monster game.
I'll play him. I'll play him this week, and I think it's going to be a playoff eliminator because we're both sitting the same record right there on the cusp. So
I thought I was like, it's the last 2 weeks. I thought I'm going into the week feeling pretty confident, and then Cam Newton just kind of craps on the whole team, and if he can't only score like 15 points this week, it's just tough. Talking about the Panthers, I mean, they traded Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, I didn't see that coming to the Bills.
That kind of either says they're giving up on the season or they have a lot more faith in Funchess than everybody.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of other people. Funchess does look better, but like on paper, I mean, Benjamin's obviously the better, stat-wise guy. But I mean, Funchess he's a big guy like Benjamin. I mean, he's starting to catch the ball more, but I don't know. It's a weird trade to me.
For sure. And, we're going to have a couple of different podcasts here. And then towards the end of the year, we'll obviously have a lot to talk about in the NFL because I feel like that it's just getting good. I mean, I feel like that it's only up from here. And, the trades make everything even more interesting.
Yeah, I got a breaking news in from Mark Fishman just now that Josh Gordon's been reinstated for the Browns.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I mean, the Browns are obviously the biggest loser of the week, biggest loser of the season this year, and last year, and last year, and last year. The A.J. McCarron thing, I mean, they would have had a decent quarterback, and then Josh Gordon coming back, I mean, they could have won maybe a game this year.
They can't even get that right. They didn't turn the trade in on them.
Yeah, they were celebrating and missed the 4 o'clock deadline. I think they called them like at 4:02 or something.
That's so Browns.
The most Browns thing I've ever heard. So. Well, the transition and kind of talk about just a couple small things before we close. The Walking Dead's back on. Jay Gross is a giant Walking Dead fan. He's one of the few people that I know that read the comics. And there's actually been another episode on since we last talked about it. So, are you liking the way that the season's playing out so far? Or?
Yeah, man, it's brutal. I mean, the violence is at an all-time high. I think it's making it interesting to watch.
Is Rick gonna go back and get that baby? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I don't know.
That was a really weird part.
Yeah.
I guess you're just supposed to forget about the baby. I was like, what about the baby?
Yeah. They kind of made it look like he had already killed the dad, and then of course you got the guy that come back from season 1 at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his baby. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, that guy. That was weird. I forgot all about that guy. And when he left with his family to go to somewhere else, like where that part then with the CDC, and it was destroyed.
Yeah.
He's already raising Shane's baby, so he might as well raise another baby that's not his too. So. Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
I don't know. I'm kind of mixed about it. I feel like I'm almost kind of burned out on it. I reached this point about 6 or 7 seasons into almost everything. But this season's obviously been more exciting, but they're just kind of drawing out the excitement to me. Like, what are we on? What is this, the second or third episode?
It's the second one.
Third coming up.
Yeah, so we're talking about like drawing it out, the attack, and it's still not really a clear plan, and I'm wondering if maybe the whole first half of this season is going to be this assault that they're kind of carrying out, and the twists and turns that go with it. So,
man, it's probably going to be the whole season.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty excited to see Shiva come up with a walker. That's always my favorite part. When she comes out of nowhere, then I get up off the couch.
So right now they're making Rick's looks like they're controlling things.
Yeah.
and it's gonna change. Like,
yeah, you're waiting for the pendulum.
They're building them up, and then Negan's gonna come up with something.
He's always a step ahead of Rick. Rick's gonna kill him next week.
So
not today.
I think it's one of mine and David's show, and coincidentally enough, another show that a guy has a bat with spikes in it. Stranger Things is back on, and to me, I watched a promo for it the other day, and it's the Thriller promo. Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
Dude, you need to watch it. It's one of the best promos of a television show I've ever seen in my life, and it's so good right now. I'm about to finish up part 2, and I feel like that's kind of a tale of two shows because they're probably the two of the three best shows on right now with Game of Thrones too.
Yeah, I agree.
And it just seems like the excitement in the first season is everything's so new. And even though this season of Walking Dead has been really exciting, it's just harder for me to get into, with all of that. But the Walking Dead crossover has really got me excited. I think Gross has some inside knowledge with his sources and thinks it's maybe Abraham coming back. Is that right?
Yeah, he last time he got his brains beat out with a baseball bat.
Easy, man. People might not have seen that.
If they ain't seen it by now, get over it. I mean, he sent out this tweet and they made him delete it and take it off.
Yeah.
Apparently he's gonna go back. Fear the Walking Dead was talking about going back to, I don't know if it's Houston or wherever in Texas.
Yeah.
He heard him talk about that, his family. Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll see him with his family before, he met up with Rick and them.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going for, but I think they have something up their sleeve, and it may be something like that because, like you said, Fear the Walking Dead is so far behind the actual Walking Dead right now in the timeline that it's hard to say what they'll do with it. But
I mean, the Walking Dead, man, they keep showing old Rick in the future. So I mean, maybe.
Dude, what's up with that's weird? I don't know. Maybe it's a sign that Rick's going to die or something. Because didn't someone else have something like that, like a feature thing where they're picturing themselves?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Don't say anything that would ruin the season for me, especially.
I mean, it's deviated already from the comic books. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, they kind of did this thing in the comic too. It's basically you're looking ahead to what's happened, kind of past all the Negan stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
And then it's going to go back, and we're probably going to see it all.
Well, I was happy that Rick still had both of his hands in the future. I thought that was kind of lame. That they, the whole comic book, whether he lost one of his hands, and they kind of teased it with the Negan thing. And
and they made it look like Carl was going to lose his hand.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good. So I think they play off it, like you said, they deviate.
But Robert Kirkman, he's openly said he regrets doing it in the comic. Because, Rick's, biting people, and how is he beating people up with one hand? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But
that's a good thing about a TV show. You can change it if you didn't like something.
Yeah, and the thing is, every time, if they cut his hand every time he's on screen, they'd have to have, this green screen, which is super expensive. And really, their budget, they couldn't afford it, so.
Yeah.
At least with Carl, got your eye blown out, stick a patch on it.
Yeah. Good to go, Governor Jr. over there. So, something else exciting coming out for TV, the Ric Flair 30 for 30. That's kind of a late addition to the
next Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Cannot wait for it. They had the another promo on ESPN today, and it looks so good. The Four Horsemen DVD is one of my favorite, wrestling documentaries. So I expect this to be just as good, right on par with that. I think there's probably a lot of people. It might be one of the best rated 30 for 30s ever.
Yeah, they've been talking about this for a year. Someone else was supposed to come out with one, and then ESPN kind of took the idea. I think it was Ben Simmons or Bill Simmons or whatever his idea. They kind of took it or whatever, and they're making their own. But I mean, I think HBO's going to come out with one or something.
A Ric Flair one too?
I think so. There was two going on at once. They may have changed
it.
Is it
kind of like Tombstone and Water?
I don't know. ESPN always does a great job with the 30 for 30s. I mean, everything else.
I'm probably the most excited about this one because it's just kind of, I don't know. Just
something we grew up with. Definitely lived through Well, I didn't live through maybe the glory days, but I lived through like the fake heart attack day. I don't know if y'all remember like WCW Nitro, and he had like the fake heart attack leading up to the Eric Bischoff fight.
My favorite one's the one where he took all his clothes off and started yelling Bischoff to fire me.
That's about the same time he had the heart attack. I thought it was real.
Naked.
Yeah, I thought it was real when I was a little kid, and I think it came out when I was probably like 7 or 8, and I thought Ric Flair really died in the ring, and he had a heart attack.
Yeah,
but
he's had about 12 since.
Yeah.
I hope they start the show with what's that one popular interview you had? Because after Royal Rumble or something goes, with a tear in my eye, the greatest day of my life.
There's going to be several of those moments, I believe, and they were showing all the sports teams that emulate them and kind of the
He's definitely he has a huge impact on pop culture even to today.
For sure. The last note that I had here was the Call of Duty promo, which I think is one of the best game promos I've ever seen of Get Your Squad Back Together. Some of my fondest memories is back when we lived together in Richmond, and we had, probably 7-8 people over, and, we would split the screen, and half of us go upstairs.
Kind of link the Xboxes
together, fight over who got the small TV versus the big screen TV. The winner's got the big screen TV, and we would just go all night. Mike Fishman with his fall down machine gun, making everybody mad, and me across the map with my M1 Garand. And
call it the lay and pray.
And I think it's very appropriate that they come back with the World War II game. It's been a long time since I played Call of Duty, but I'm thinking about getting back into it.
I just found out where I pre-ordered. I can actually download them. That way, when midnight Friday hits, it'll be downloaded. I can go ahead and start playing.
Yeah. Gross will be on an all-night bender by the time UFC comes on.
I'm not a huge video game guy, but I'm excited for the new Star Wars game.
We're not
playing that.
Yeah, y'all got me hooked on that back when y'all played the trailer.
We played that all the time. Yeah.
But the Call of Duty genuinely has me excited back for the games again. I thought that they could not have done a better promo than Get Your Squad Back Together, because I feel like that they know that the people that played the World War II games are kind of at the stage of our life where, they filled it all in perfectly in the commercial. So I thought that was really cool. And it also kind of fit in with one of my goals that I have of getting everybody together for like a roundtable discussion of funny group stories on New Year's Eve. Perhaps get a little adult beverages to get everybody a little lubed up, and then tell some stories. We're probably going to have a vetting period where we approve the stories that can and cannot be told. But
yeah, there needs to be a meeting before.
There
needs to be a sober meeting before. But then you kind of have everything out the window, and of course we're not going to be allowed to have everybody talk.
We're gonna have some wild cards. There's definitely gonna be some guys go rogue on that too.
Yeah, I can see Brett going full rogue, but I'd like to get maybe Brett together, maybe my brother on here, obviously Big Mike, and just tell a couple stories. I think that would be really fun. Way to really cap off the year of the podcast, and I've got some other things planned. The next one's going to be a hunting podcast where I'm going to get some guests on here and talk about some different stuff with hunting, with the season coming up. I've been hunting pretty hard for a couple weeks now, and then we decided to do episode 13 with a conspiracy podcast, which I'm also very excited for, especially with the release of the JFK files. And it seems like there's a development in the Vegas story every other week and stuff like that. So, exciting times here. I really appreciate you being on. We'll see how right or wrong we were on Saturday night. And as I said before, if we're wrong, we'll cry it out together and try to move on with our lives. I'm not really sure what's next, but
GSP might be all I got left.
For sure.
Chuck ain't coming back anytime soon.
After seeing Fedor get dropped again, I don't have much going on left in the world of MMA. So, but I really appreciate you being on. Dave, you have anything else that we didn't hit up?
No, not really. No, nothing that we missed or anything like that. I think we covered about everything. Yeah,
we're probably going to take a little bit of time off here, and then, like I said, regroup with the hunting podcast, and then we're going to get our conspiracy theory podcast in. Shortly after that, we'll probably get kind of a sports world update going on, and we'll know who was right and wrong about them a lot with these predictions that we made. So, but we really appreciate you guys tuning in. You can find us on social media at Double Axis Podcast on Facebook and Instagram as well. And, please make sure that you go to the YouTube page, Double Axis Podcast, and like and subscribe. We've got it seems like we're kind of developing a pretty loyal following. I think we got almost 30 subscribers now, and we're kind of averaging 50 to 70 views, and I'm sure the star and celebrity of Jeremy Gross is worth at least a couple hundred. So
he's gonna bring in the big numbers.
Yeah, breaking I need to see some payroll when he.
And the feds are outside watching. There's a blacked out van parked outside your house.
My Wi-Fi says FBI van. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, I don't make it home tonight.
Yeah, it's the guy in the van.
That van, cause
the record, I think the most views we have is around 220 right now. So you think you're worth that? You think you can bring that in?
Hell no. Crazy.
I was hoping to say yes.
Yes.
I want to share it until I make that happen. So, but we really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you the next go round.